1v1 play is the absolute foundation of soccer. It happens all over the pitch. 1v1, 2v2, 2v1, 3v3 happens all over the pitch. And while we're starting to focus on that more, we seem to only focus on the offensive aspect of it, which I completely understand. For coaches, you get very, very little time to train with these players. There's a lot of things they really need to be doing on their own. So of course you're gonna spend the time on the most important things that are also some of the most difficult things for players to master, and that is, of course, the ball at their feet in those 1v1 situations. However, it is important to teach defense as well, and you can do it within the same session. Just you may just shift your focus as a coach when they're playing small-sided games into what it is you're correcting and what it is you're having players focus on at times. And so focusing on 1v1 defending in these small-sided games, getting into the concepts of this pressure, cover, balance, and we're gonna get into that, is also very, very important as well. So, first, welcome back to the channel. Thank you for being here. Appreciate your support. If you do me a favor, if you're enjoying the content, please smash that like button. It's the only way that tells you, only thing that tells YouTube, hey, you know what? Other people might enjoy this. Subscribe to the channel if you're enjoying the content as well. Please comment below with questions. You may have noticed this past week, finally getting back into focusing on this channel, and that's going to be a consistent thing going forward. So, one of the things that I want to get through first, and that is the approach defensively, which I don't think is talked about enough. I actually got this more from basketball as a young player than I did from soccer, but it's the same type of thing. It's probably actually more in soccer, but I learned it in basketball, and that is this idea of fast, slow, side on, and low. What does that mean? This is simply how, as a defender, you approach the player with the ball when you are closing from distance, right? So fast is, depending on how far away, you're quickly closing the distance to the attacker, and then that fast turns into slow. You have to decelerate quickly when you get to a certain distance away from that defender. You want to slow down as you get closer because you want to avoid over committing at the youngest ages, right? Just recklessly running at the player with the ball almost to the point where you just kinda run into them. That could be enough to cause turnovers without a doubt because the players don't have the skill with the ball to do anything about it. They usually kind of panic and they might just kick it away and they'll kick it right into the defender, or they don't have the skill. They might try and get out of the way, but they can't. However, doing that also causes the development of bad habits as a defender because as you get older, hopefully, if things are going correctly for everyone, the players get better, they get more skilled. They're not going to panic if you just run at them. They're simply going to react to you, take a touch into space away from you, and dribble right around you, and you're completely out of the play. So that's why you have to learn that it's fast, and at that last bit to get to that defender to close, it becomes slow. Then it is side on. What do I mean by that? You want to position your body side on to the attacker. Again, this is something emphasized more in basketball than it is in soccer, but it is the same type of thing. And that means you're getting into an athletic stance, but you're not straight on with them, right? Your feet aren't parallel. You have one foot higher than the other. You have one shoulder more closer to the defender that put you in a better athletic stance to defend, to react to where they go. And it also allows you to turn that player with the ball in either direction the way you want them to go. For example, if they're you're out wide and you're all by yourself, you may if they're on their right side, you're maybe the left back. You've got your right foot forward. You're playing a little your right shoulder to their left shoulder, and you're helping to shuttle them to that sideline to use that sideline as another defender for you. And then, of course, low. So what is low? Is you want to stay low to the ground so that you can move again, athletic stance, right? Athletic stance is not straight up. You want to be on the not the toes, the balls of your feet. You want to be able to move your feet quickly and react to what the offensive player is doing. This is a huge part of successfully playing defense, and it's almost non-existent in youth soccer. Players offensively and defensively all play the game too high. This is a combination of a lack of strength, which also comes from kids no longer simply playing outside. And so you want to maintain this side on stance. It keeps your hips perpendicular almost to the attacker, which is allowing you to recover quickly if they do try and get behind you, right? So it's like this. If we've got the player with the ball, if you just, we just run like that at them, that's when, as at least when they get a little older, they just take that touch by you, and so you wanna close this distance, and then maybe when you get here, you start getting a little slower till you close enough to where passing past you is difficult, you're taking away a lot of the pass angles, you're forcing them to go completely laterally or maybe backward, and as you can see, this is the best I can get in this. I'm gonna make this one a little bigger, but even kinda here, you can see how the way I have it, the right foot is ahead a little bit, right? The right foot, so I'm side on, I've got that right shoulder toward them, also forcing them a little bit to go to their right in this instance, if that's what I wanna do. So that is a big part of it as well, and one other thing I wanna get to before I move on with a little bit of the press I mean, cover and balance and so forth, and that is angles and understanding angles. One thing I really learned in coaching is, again, players aren't out playing at their own enough. They're not doing pickup enough. They're not learning these things on their own, and that is understanding taking angles to a ball carrier. I see this a lot, especially if it's out wide. Let's say, the ball ends up coming out here to this player out wide to the to the right here, and what I'll see a defender do in this situation like this is whoop, is they run right at them this way, right? They run right at them this way. This player then dribbles this way, and they end up chasing them, right? So the movement is without that player, without me worrying about that defender players. We see this. The player is out here, right? This is the same player, the before and after. So they're here with the ball, and we run like this, and then we go like this, and we end up chasing them, right? Instead of they're here with the ball, but they're going this way, right? So we need to take this angle, right? A direct angle here and meet that player. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. I know it can be I'm getting a little crazy with these before and afters, but hopefully it gives you the idea of what I'm talking about. So let me try it like this. A lot of times what you get, if you can see where I have that pencil, they end up having to do, right? End up having to do this, right? And they end up chasing the defender. Okay. When instead, what they should be doing, if I get this right, is learning angles and meet them this way. And so instead of chasing them, they're meeting them further down the pitch where they can. So anyway, that's just something not really part of this, but I definitely want to add it because it's something I see all the time that needs to be corrected. So let's take a look at the most basic of pressure and cover. Now, at young ages, a lot of times what you get is everybody defensively, right? Kind of like what I was saying in 1v1, everyone just runs to the ball because most likely, with a lack of skill, you're going to get players to cough up the ball because they just can't, they don't have the skill to match the being swarmed, okay, with numbers. But as they get older, that becomes a real problem. So you want to teach them the fundamentals and the right thing at the beginning. And so you want to make sure you have one player that's going to pressure the ball, and then the next is cover. And so what does cover mean? Well, a lot of times, again, even off the ball, a lot of players will get right up on here, right? They'll meet the player who's pressuring and they'll get up like this. And what does that leave? That leaves a lot of space behind. That leaves right where's the dangerous space? It's the space behind. So you can get things like this ball this way with the offensive player going around like this, or even in this case, you can get a player that makes that run to the inside and that ball gets through here. And that becomes a pretty easy pass because you're breaking a line where the defenders are even with each other and there's a lot of space behind. So you don't want that as a defender. So if you're pressuring the neck and the other player is covering, whoops, um, what you want to get is goal side and ball side of the player that is your responsibility while also being in a position to help, right? So we're gonna drop back a little bit diagonally in here. Okay, so now the defender is goal side and ball side of this second offensive player over here. So now what becomes very difficult, the split pass between the two becomes much, much more difficult than if these players were next to each other and further apart, right? So that kind of takes that away. It also makes the pass, if they go this way and around, it makes that pass much more difficult to get through, right? You're protecting the most dangerous areas on the pitch by doing this and by being in that position and sliding over. If this player off the dribble beats this defender, this this defender is a great position to help and take the ball carrier as well. So by just being in a goal side, ball side position like that, by dropping basically what I was saying, if you're equal and right in front of you, just drop back diagonally a little bit. Now all of a sudden it's a completely different game for the defenders in this situation. And finally, we have 3v3, and I added a made it a 4-goal game for a couple of reasons. I mean, you can do this obviously for the offense, it works really well for offense at younger ages to get them to spread out, to get them to switch field a lot more often, but that helps with the defense as well, right? You encourage the offense to switch field to attack different spaces, but that means you're also forcing the defense to communicate more, to get organized more often and more quickly when there is a switch of field. So when you have this 3v3, also what you're adding for the defense, you're adding the final thing to pressure and cover, and that is balance. Balance means maintaining a defensive shape that covers all dangerous spaces and supports teammates. So again, how's that working? The player closest to the ball pressures, as we see here. The player next to the ball covers the dangerous space behind the pressure while being aware of that other offensive player, like I was talking about before, ball side and goal side. And then that third defender balances things out by positioning to cover additional space and or depending on what happens, support teammates as well. Now, if this were a back line of 4, if we finally added that, we'd have two bounces, and I probably would have this player back a little further, and then the 4th player would be down here where the blue is, and they would be even with this final player. So you can, in this situation, probably be even in here. You're not worried about a split between those last 2 defenders. Again, ball side and goal side of this 3rd offensive player. The one in the middle is in a cover position, right? Helping the pressure, so they've taken the split pass between them, they're sort of taking away that dangerous spot. It's very difficult to play behind as here as well for that same situation. So by being ball side and goal side, they've taken away those dangerous spaces. That is what this final defender done as well, is given balance to the defense. They're in a position to support their teammates if they are beaten, while also taking away that player on the outside. Because again, you also have to understand, if you force them to switch, and they can't all do it at younger ages, but when you force a switch on a long ball in the air, you have time as a team to adjust and to move over if they are doing that. So anyway, I just wanted to go through some of the basics of foundational defense as an individual and how you're relating to your teammates when there becomes more players on the pitch as well. So hopefully y'all got something out of that. I appreciate you checking out the video. This is for, obviously, I should have said this at the beginning, players, coaches, parents to have an understanding of what's going on. But I'm going to leave it there. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel. Really do appreciate it. I will talk to you in the next video.